Getting Hot with Stevie or How I Discovered Her Ex was the right one for me.
Oh.
The names have been changed to protect me. So a few years ago, do you guys need the mic or am I loud enough?
Whatever you want.
Okay, we're going to do it without the mic and see how that works. Everyone can hear me? Yes? Yeah. Okay, good. So a few years ago I was in a funk. A horrible breakup, failing a class, and a visit to visit my father had all conspired to put me in this continuous fog of rage. And I was complaining to my friend Stevie when she raised a hand to stop me. You know what you need, she asked? The ability to kill people with my mind, I replied. No, yoga. In that moment, I wondered why I was friends with Stevie. She obviously had some issues. I've never really been one to hide my contempt for the hippy-dippy set, as I call them, who treat other cultures like little shopping malls where they can steal centuries-old traditions and turn them into exercise DVDs like Stripper Yoga with Jenna Jameson. No, I don't think that's what I need. I was trying to be gentle. Maybe she was a little bit drunk or high. But she grabbed my arm. No, really. It'll be amazing. Yeah, I don't think so. It wouldn't cost us anything. I have 2 free passes. And that's when I made my first mistake. I looked into her eyes. And she looked like she was about to cry. And as a child of the Reagan-era 80s, I'm all about suppressing all the squishier emotions. So if she did start crying, I wouldn't really know what to do. Would it be rude just to walk out on her? If we were on the phone, I could just hang up and claim I just walked into a no-service area later. But I guess I couldn't faint or something without her calling the hospital. So I agreed. Yoga it is. Someone once told me guilt is something our parents enforce on us to stop us from doing things to feel good. It also makes us do stupid things, like agree to go to yoga. So that's how I found myself on a small side street in the Mission in sweatpants and a t-shirt, waiting to be buzzed up into a small studio. As we arrived, I realized that all that exertion shouldn't have resulted in the amount of sweating that was happening when we reached the 3rd floor. I found myself getting hotter and hotter, and my forehead breaking out in sweat. Why don't they open a window in here, I asked. It's Bikram yoga, she said. What the heck is Bikram yoga? They turn up the thermostat so you really sweat as you do the work. Now there are words I try to wipe from my vocabulary, because despite how widespread and ubiquitous their use, I try not to use them, but sometimes you have to say it. And so my response was, "Bitch, are you crazy?" Stevie's eyes went wide and wet, but right now I could give a shit. Why would you bring me here? You know part of the reason I moved north was to get away from heat. Heat kills people every year. Why the hell would someone pay for it? A tear fell down her cheek and Stevie began to plead. Really, I think it would be good for you and your anger issues. Now, if she hadn't been crying at that moment, I would have gotten her face about this. I don't have anger issues. Everyone else has issues with my anger. I've heard about it from enough people and I'm through with it. But I'm not stupid, and getting angry at a crying girl in the public space is it's going to end up with a police interview for the rest of the afternoon. So I just narrowed my eyes at her and nodded. She led me in, and she's like, "You'll love the next part." "Oh really? What do they do? Hook our genitals up to a car battery?" A voice sounded behind me. Hardly. I turned to face the instructor and hated him on sight. His hair was an explosion of blonde matte locks, filled with wood charms that made his head look like something out of the Blair Witch Project. Asian characters ran down one arm in stark black, and I imagined that he thought they said something like Holy Warrior for Mother Nature, but they probably actually meant something closer to Tree Fucker. Prayer beads from at least 2 competing different religions hung from his wrist, and he was wearing black tights and a white t-shirt with the Om symbol emblazoned on it. I wanted to kick him in the balls. Not just because it would make me feel good, but to stop him from breeding. Ever. It was a humanitarian impulse, trust me. He went on, "What you get here is a tool to open a pathway of communication with the universe. With the heat so high, your astral self becomes even more disconnected from the bonds of the physical self. It's a journey, an unburdening." There's a story about one of my favorite celebrities in the world, Beth Ditto, who's the lead singer for The Gossip. When she was touring, she has a tendency to strip on stage when she sings, and she's a big girl. Once when she was touring Australia, apparently an audience member started to yell things at her while she was taking off her clothes. As the story goes, her response was to stick her fingers down her throat and projectile vomit all over me. Now, I don't know if that's true or simply a rock and roll myth, but I've never in my life wished for the ability to do the same as much as I did staring at his face. His smile slowly faded as my only response to his spiel was a blank stare. I was trying to keep the disgust from my face. And finally he fidgeted nervously and turned and clapped his hands. Okay, we're about to begin. I want to ask everyone not to speak unless you have a question about a pose. We want silence so that we're primed and ready to hear our ancestors' voices. I leaned towards Stevie. Is that the point of yoga, or is he just making shit up now? Shh! She fucking shushed me! I was hot as a motherfucker, and I was being shushed. By the time we got to the end of the opening breathing exercise, I was already done. I was sticky, and the silence had left me alone in my head with all my recent problems swirling. In one of our first positions, I leaned over again. Okay, I'm ready to go. Shh! And at this point, I had enough. I didn't care that Stevie's girlfriend had dumped her. I didn't care about the fact that I kind of understood why now, and was thinking of giving her ex Jane a call. Obviously, I'd picked the wrong person in the breakup lottery. This time, instead of whispering, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Okay, I've had enough, and don't shush me again. I'm ready to go. I stood up and began to roll up the borrowed mat. A hand grabbed my arm. Stevie again. But nah, man, this is exactly why I brought you here. To help with this anger. I tried to breathe and remember she was a friend, but I was still hot, stuffy, and the whole fucking space smelled of patchouli. So I rounded ready for a fight. Why? Huh? Who asked for help with it? So I can become like this guy? I gestured at the instructor who was doing a valiant job of trying to keep teaching his class. I'd rather be dead. It was probably bad for him to say that in front of him, but I was too pissed to care. What kind of world will that be, huh? Where we all just blandly act like we're on too much lithium and gather in rooms where we deliberately cause heat stroke? I don't need that kind of life. I'm happy the way I am. I was yelling at this point, I didn't care. If that's the world we're headed, I would rather stay angry until the yoga police cart me off to some 90-degree detention cell where I'm supposed to find myself. With that, I walked out of the studio. In the front desk area, I was stopped by the attendant who asked me if anything had gone wrong. To this day, I don't remember what I said specifically. Probably some same form of the rant I gave in the studio, but it resulted in the man giving me a refund for a class I hadn't paid for. I ended up in the cool breeze outside with $20 extra in my pocket and blinking into the sun on a Saturday afternoon with nothing to do. I admit my next move was a little bit spiteful, but I pulled my cell phone and called Stevie's ex Jane. Called up Stevie's ex Jane. We met up and she used my yoga money to get us some pills, which we took as we wandered the city. That calmed my anger down more than any sweaty building. At least until that bar fight with the law students from USF. But that's a different story. Although I will say that anger helped me come out ahead there too.